not a fun time here. Now Infamous, I don't know. I'm still partially convinced, DT, that Faceless Void pick was at least partially influenced by a steal attempt, right? Because otherwise, the Snap Faceless combo could have been there on the Hokori side, which obviously leads into the scenario you were just outlining, where their lanes look a little, not bad, I guess, but maybe just not the most synergistic. Let's throw out some buzzwords here. It just feels okay, but not great.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to say because, of course, with CM, especially versus Broodmother, you'd think, oh, you pick up another nuker in your pos one, and then you've got another hero to maybe kill the spiders. But the Faceless Void is just going to be helpless. He's going to be a one trick to try and kill Broodmother in a Chronosphere, and then well, maybe you do something else. Also, it's kind of hard to combo with Dawnbreaker, in all honesty. It's where you really need to make sure that you get your kill, or at least in the following seconds after Chronosphere. Otherwise, you've used two very expensive team fight ultimates, and then maybe the fight just starts to peter out. It's where I think already it probably feels nice if you make this tinier mid laner and then you put the Dawnbreaker as your 4, and then maybe you're looking for an offlaner as well on Infamous, or you could. Because yet again, here with the Faceless Void, I'm just worried that we're not going to be able to make too many plays other than the Chronosphere. And of course, there's a Tiny that's eventually going to get a Blink Dagger, and that's going to be your easy guy. But then all of that falls on your Tiny, and we've already seen, I think, especially yesterday, what happens when a player or a hero has too many jobs to do, especially from the SA teams, because they like doing it. They like to trust their teammates and give them kind of tough games where they think that maybe they can do something else and buy some time, but it just hasn't panned out yet.
Yeah, that's sort of the downside of the star treatment, right? You get all the attention, but sometimes you also get basically all of the responsibility to keep your team in the game for an extended amount of time, and nobody can shoot 100% in those scenarios, right? You will eventually have some losses, and losses in a scenario where neither team really can afford to go down too easily there. So we'll see what the call is for Infamous. We are, at this point, I think, yeah, really leaning towards the maybe Sebas Tiny here, but it doesn't have to be the case, and Hokori's bans may tell us what position they're looking at. Okay. Well, that told me something that I didn't really think we'd be seeing. They're thinking it's, what, Tiny 2 and the core Dawnbreaker at this point with the Skywrath ban.
Yeah, and honestly, it's not a bad ban. I think that's a direction that they could have gone. Now I think the direction that they're going to go in could just be the Invoker instead, but
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense. I think the Puck ban also covers quite a lot. They just don't want their Morphling to play versus silences. Plain and simple. That's the way that he dies. That's the way that he can die in the Chronosphere if you have that follow-up once that Morphling gets the Ag Shard. So just covering their bases in that way, even though I don't know if they were going to go for the Scarth Mage. And let's see. They go for
Huh.
Storm. Okay. Well, the Invoker would have certainly given them more damage in the Chronosphere, but that's your other playmaker, a hero that will be able to do things in the downtime of your Chronosphere, and you've got somebody to lead your Dawnbreaker in. And with Pango banned, a few phases earlier, I mean, Storm Spirit will fit the bill.
Mm-hmm. Now, the unfortunate thing about this is that they did effectively have to take this Storm pick blind, because Hokori do have last overall pick, but I don't know. In terms of the ability to maintain your presence within the middle lane, the Storm is pretty damn strong on that front. So Hokori might be hard pressed to find someone who can bully him. Might just look to maybe match pace with their own mid option here. And I don't know, ET, the pool of mid laners, a couple got taken away, right? Pango, Lina, Leshrac all out, but still quite a few options, including the Invoker we thought Infamous would take. They're going to put it into Analog's hands, and I mean, Analog Invoker is a bit of a calling card for him.
No, definitely is. Will also retroactively slow down the Storm Spirit, give you that draw in the middle lane, but also just be very annoying and just have
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's always going to anchor down mid. So he's always going to be on the runes. He's always going to fight Sebas for it. Not really going to give him the easiest time. It's a little bit of a tough Invoker game, in all honesty, just because if they ever do close that gap, you don't really have any save on Hokori. You also don't have that much Sunstrike setup aside from Gardeck's hook shot, so really it's just going to be Analog kind of playing for himself. But Otherwise, I think he's going to be happy. And it's Analog Invoker. It's
Yeah.
probably his second or third best hero in a lane that he's not really going to be too pressured by. But man, Hokori have some great calling card heroes. Gardet Clock, Vitali Brood, Lumiere, Morph. Everybody is feeling very comfortable on their side.
I mean, at a certain point, you just lost to this team yesterday in a different event. You've lost 4 games in a row here in Pro Series. So if you're Hokori, they had to go back to the drawing board and they decide, let's fall back on comfort, right? Let's get our guys the heroes that they're honestly kind of known for across the board and see where that gets us, which, I mean, fair enough, right? When you're looking for answers, start back from what feels most familiar to you.
No, definitely. And hopefully, well, they're going to put up a little bit more of a fight because the previous series was, yeah, they had a great first game. They owned Infamous in game 1. They won in like 26 minutes, and then game 2 and game 3 just ended up in these super messy brawls. But definitely a lot to look forward to in this game, and we'll have to see what Oscar can actually do, because another maybe issue with this Storm Spirit, and an issue with kind of picking their mid laner, both mid laners, as late as they did, is really Oscar's the only one to answer the Broodmother in this game. And of course, Oscar can always join the fight. He is Dawnbreaker. If he's forced on spider duty, he can still join those team fights. But when it comes to defending those towers, he really is the best and only hero for Infamous.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing. You would look at this lineup and you'd say, you know, ET, what are you talking about? There's all this AoE, right? CM, Tiny, you've got Storm. Yeah, that's all AoE, but that's not really. First of all, those spells aren't just going to kill spiders outright. Second of all, they don't really have the same degree of mobility, right, that the Dawnbreaker has. Or I guess the Storm would, but if you're blowing half your mana zipping around chasing spiderlings, a mistake has been made, right? So the Dawnbreaker is the one who's going to have to be responsible for actually committing the time and resources to take those out.
Yeah, and Sebas, he's great at killing the spider, but he's not good at killing the spiderlings. That's the caveat to look at here, and we'll have to see what Sebas can do. Because surprisingly, I feel like this is our 5th or 6th Storm Spirit that's come through, even though nobody, the world at large does not believe in that hero very much. But a lot of these SA specialists just feel like they can make it work, and there's certainly a build to play around with. Witchblade definitely makes your life easier, but it's where I get a little bit concerned coming this kind of late into a tournament where you start to realize, okay, Storm, he showed top, he's got half mana, he's not a hero, he can't do anything to us. Now we get a Morphling who can farm whatever lane, X lane, because he's not scared. It's where if Lumiere ever gets too much time, that's the constant clock ticking down against you. If you're Infamous, you cannot let this Morphling get too far and away. You have to get some pretty nifty plays. It's where I also do wonder if Sebas is just going to go for the Orchid, just so that way maybe you don't have that much mana to work with, but you've got something to play versus Lumiere. And in which case, if Lumiere gets his Manta Style too quickly, I guess that blows up in your face. But it's where you do have to look at this Morphling and say, do we have enough time? Do we give ourselves enough time? Or is Lumiere just going to walk all over us? Because at the end of the day, even though Hokori are losing games and they're definitely getting back into the groove of things, Lumiere still farms. Lumiere still plays really well by himself. He's always been kind of the star player, I think, for Hokori, but it's where give him a good enough hero matchup. I've seen this guy 1v9.
Yeah, he is very much capable of doing so, and on the Morphling, that's a hero that can make those plays. So we'll see what Infamous look to do. There really is. There's no build here. You were just talking about it for Sebas. There's no build that won't come without risk. If you look for extra damage, your build's going to be slower. If you go for the early silence, then you have to beat Lumiere to that point. And looking at the matchup, not between those two, but between mid, this is somewhere where maybe there's a bit of a saving grace for Sebas on that Storm if he doesn't get off to the best of starts, because Invoker is also a very momentum-based hero, right? We've seen a lot of sad games where he misses on those first couple of attempts and then buys a catch-up Midas and doesn't really factor into much for the next couple minutes at the very least. So both mid laners have kind of taken a risk here. They're going to swing, obviously, but if they swing and miss, well, it kind of sets back the entire lineup.
Yeah, and it's the type of game and the type of lineup, as we sometimes talk about, where Hokori can afford to die. They can afford to die a whole lot. Infamous have to get a lot of kills in this game. They have to play very clean Dota, and they have to slow down Hokori, all of their cores, really, as much as they can, because if Hokori are ever looking at an easy game, walking to BKBs, then BKBs, that's how you break this matchup. That's how Infamous get shut out. They're so reliant on their magic damage, even though, they got a Faceless Void. They have Oscar with the Starbreaker. But aside from that, you pop BKB and you're sitting in a Chronosphere. The damage is not really gonna be felt unless Kataro is absolutely massive. And that's where really every single play, every single kill is gonna matter so much more for Infamous than Hokori.
Well, 3 of the 4 bounty runes do go Hokori's way at the start, so they'll have a little bit of an advantage heading into this laning stage. And, well, looking at the bottom lane first here, ET, Kataro honestly should be safe, right? It feels like they don't have the burst potential to kill him before a time walk gets off. Katyu, however, is Crystal Maiden. It feels like this is just going to be sort of bully tactics all day long between Vitaly and Theolacor.
Yeah, it's not gonna be fun. It's just gonna be him getting right-clicked by Snapfire, and of course, Snapfire is a great hero to trade with. And you don't really have any damage coming from Kutaro. I think he's definitely going to get a value point in the time dilation at level 2, just because there is going to be a lot of CD spells, especially if Hikori ever decide to get aggressive here onto Katyu. But then maybe we see a turn. Until then, though, it's just going to be avoiding. Even though
Oh,
Hikori
wow.
kind of made a misstep there. Yeah.
A lot further forward than, well, I think he wanted to be. He's going to go for a bit of a D-ward here, although, yeah, Katyu's really fighting him for it. But at a certain point, there's only so much Katyu can do, especially considering he takes a Frostbite at level 1, so it still does some nice damage, but I don't really know how much they can sort of follow it up here with Kataro, because as you said, his damage output is non-existent at the moment, but Katyu really is being as annoying as he possibly can.
Yeah, and of course, the reason he gets the Frostbite, just slightly more efficient spell. You don't get to hit both heroes as you would with the Nova, but just makes it easier for your personal trades, and also just doesn't push the wave in, which is something Kataro can't really afford to. If he loses lane control, then that's where a kill could happen.
Meanwhile, ET up in the top lane, we've decided that the normal laning area isn't good enough. We have shifted things behind the tier 1 tower. All 4 heroes just kind of hanging out here trying to trade last hits, so I don't know. I always feel like when this situation plays out, you feel kind of bad as your position 4 hero, because Sladen pulled the wave. He did what he was sort of trying to do, but now it's not quite all for naught, but it's not nearly as effective as you were hoping.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, they do end up pulling about, 2 levels relatively for free. The only unfortunate thing is with that second wave going under tower, does mean that that top lane is going to push into the Morph lane, but wow, kill bottom. And then they also toss back top, so action everywhere. Guards on the lamb right now.
And we are getting to some early engagements. Gardic is going to be able to walk away. Katyu obviously was not his first blood. Does go to Hokori, and Vitaly's the one to get it too. So we talked about that sort of bully ball tactic. You've got, what, stun, slow, Bola coming out as well from Vitaly's end, and yeah, Crystal Maiden's not exactly known for her speed, so once you get hit up, you're not really getting out, although Vitaly's now the one in trouble. A very timely bash from Kataro, oof. Another bash in too, but he won't dive the tower, so they're not going to get that kill, but over on the other side of the map, Gardic does go down this time, not able to survive that combo twice.
Yeah, still a lot of mana expended from Infamous, and mana not spent on the Morphling means Lumiere is going to be very happy, but it is sad that you lose the Clockwork there. But they're doing a good job of trading back against Vitaly, but it's just the Silken Bull at level 2 that I don't think a lot of these supports are necessarily prepared for, because Vitaly himself even wants Insatiable Hunger, but instead he just gets it, and it just seems to work. His play has worked, I think, 4 or 5 times now in the tournament.
And now the bola you see there on Kataro, you throw it out and I guess you don't necessarily force the time lock every time, but Kataro wants to play it safe, so relatively low mana cost on the bola to make sure the time lock can't be used to initiate onto you. It's a pretty solid trade-off if you're Vitaly, especially if he is going for, I don't know if it's going to be boots or the soul ring. Right now it looks like he's going for the arcane boots first, but either one of those purchases means that that bola is pretty sort of spammable in the lane.
No, definitely is. Even though right now, yeah, just pulling both sides. Unfortunately, Hokori does the binds bigger than yours strat here with the large camp. Stacked large camp means the Kataro has to just meet it and is going to lose pretty much most of his creep wave. Gets a few assets at least, but now the CM's set up for the small camp, so she's happy. The Lumire's underneath the T1 top, though.
Lumire gets taken down. At the same time, Sebas is getting chased through his jungle here. Analog won't go any further than that, but the Lumiere kill really is going to be a huge play from Infamous, and it's a play that honestly, I don't know, didn't really feel like they were going to be able to get it off. Most of the time the Morphling is safe, but they caught him in between sort of the attribute shifting, which, I mean, 9 times out of 10, ET, if the Morphling dies before 20 minutes, that's how it does go down. He just wasn't quite ready.
No, very peculiar play from Lumiere, but it's okay. It's not the worst death, and it is the first death, so he should be, you know, completely fine. Even though with his current items, it's not like he can rotate to the jungle if this lane really does turn sour, but that's where, as we keep seeing, Adaptive Strike spam does just become very annoying, and Oscar is already kind of getting punched back. Thankfully for him, though, he's already got the raindrop.
Yeah, he's not going to be taking a crazy amount of damage from it, but his last hit count is going to start falling a ways behind as we approach the 6-minute mark. Both the supports on both sides just kind of pushing their way over, and Gardic is going to be able to snag the arcane rune for himself. Analog, no, doesn't really have the mana for this, doesn't really have, I guess, anything other than maybe just a random tornado he could throw in there, but he's holding his fire for now. They actually find a much easier target as Katyu just kind of walks in. Very unfortunate for the Crystal Maiden. Theolacor and Analog team up for that kill, and at least it keeps Sebas safe, right? He's not the one receiving that attention, but yeah, now they're pinging out the ward.
Yeah, you trade the CM kill for the ward, but I think Analog himself is happy with that trade. He just gets to do whatever he wants, but then back top, Oscar gets forced back under the tower. Gardic uses a little bit of that arcane rune, and then you wonder, where's Sladen at? What's he up to? I think he had been looking over and rotated for that 6-minute rune, and then hovered around mid just to make sure the storm didn't get dove, but just little plays, little tugs and pulls at each other.
Weren't able to find the kill onto Oscar, but they at least bully him a bit. But now the Morph is in some trouble, potentially. Sebas is going to come in to get the toss back. Lumiere, though, already shifting towards strength. There's going to be the cogs thrown down, just trying to create a bit of a distraction. And that will be enough. That is a very costly rotation from Sebas. Didn't have a rune or anything like that, so he's going to have to try and make some sort of play onto Gardic. I think they've got it here. The Avalanche comes through, and that's enough lockdown. No chance for the stick cog play, and that's going to make this feel a little bit better, right? Sebas gets the kill, he'll clean up a stack, and now this rotation is worth his time.
Yeah, and then all you gotta do is pray that Sebas gets the top real rune once it spawns up in 10 seconds here, but it is kind of unfortunate. And even just looking at his mana pool and the activation cost of Ball Lightning, it hurts. And now the fight, the rune doesn't spawn, and Sebas just has to watch
though.
Oh, yeah.
Comes in, Oscar stuns it up, Analog is in trouble, surrounded by 4 heroes. Yeah, that went from a 3v1 to a 1v4 in a couple of seconds. Don't see that every day, but that is the power of the Infamous lineup. They were able to just rush heroes to the point of attack, and okay. Theolacor gets in there to deny his own ward, making use of that haste rune, but the loss of Analog is a bit of a rough one there, because realistically speaking, they thought they were just going to get a free kill onto a Tiny, and obviously they don't.
No, just ended up being way too quick. And of course, Sebas is running all the way back to base, which is, sad, but the life that a Storm Spirit will live. And now that he's going to have full mana, he's going to look for a kill in the side lanes, but a kill that doesn't even need to exist because Oscar and Sladen do it on Lumiere again here, where the shift didn't even start. Just kind of a slow reaction from Lumiere there, and he immediately buys a fluffy hat and then sells it. Knowing how he's dying, but look bottom.
What
and
happened
Sebas.
there? Power throws down the Chronosphere. Sebas is in some trouble. Spiders are trying to chase him. The Spawn Spiderling's nuke is there, and there was an interesting interaction in there. Sebas goes down. The cookie was thrown into the Chrono onto Vitali. Obviously, Vitali doesn't move. I don't know if it still even applies the damage or the stun, or if it just eats the cookie entirely. Couldn't really tell.
Yeah, it was a little bit peculiar, but this is also the tier 1's getting busted open. And this is where I think if you were Infamous and you had another Storm Spirit TP, you would just run right back at top. But now things are going to feel a little bit weird with that death on Sebas. He has to really work to reestablish himself now. Top lane, they're still Slayers. They're still looking for Lumiere, and...
Oh, they got him again.
Oh, again, it happened. No shift. Well, Sladen's just too good.
Man, and yeah, there you go. Tip that, man. Sladen's setting all of this up. That's a third death now on Lumiere's Morphling. Honestly, ET, we're not used to seeing him getting pressured to this degree in these matches, least of all on his Morphling, but... Well, I mean... They just played, right, yesterday, and I'm not sure that the Morphling made an appearance in there, but Infamous obviously know their opponents well and are taking steps to try and counteract their best strategies.
Yeah, and of course, the other two cores are having a very nice time, though. Analog and Vitali haven't really stepped off the horse, and, well, Katyu is incredibly dead there. Yeah. Even though they're going on Sebas, and yeah, maybe they get the trade.
Analog gets stunned, taken down. Avalanche now deployed onto Theolacore. The tossback is going to be there as well. And Theolacore, I do not believe he's getting out of this one. Vitali's trying to play around the edges, looking for some nuke damage, but not enough to find the kill. And, well, there we go. I was saying before, Infamous taking steps to try and nullify their opponent's advantages. Previously, that had really only been applying to the Morphling. As you said, the other cores for Hokori were doing great. Now they're starting to get dragged into an early fight or two as well, so that has to be the play for Infamous. If you shut Lumiere down, cool, fun, but you got to get the rest of the team too. It's not just a one-man show, despite how Lumiere sometimes makes it seem that way.
Yeah, and of course, whenever his spells aren't cast on him like that, now Lumiere gets to go back to top, he gets some free time, It's where we haven't seen Kataro get involved really yet with his Chronosphere, and maybe that'll be the next setup, that'll be kind of hard to pull off, but all this time has honestly gotten you over the hump, and they're still using Oscar, which is exactly what they should do, and actually, Sebas big jump,
been used. Sebas is going to go in, but yeah, he has no backup. Katyu's already fallen. Sladen and Oscar are nearby, but Sebas is already losing so much of his health. Sladen, though, when he went for the tossback onto Gardic, but Gardic is trying to set up. Vitali and Theolacore are getting in there, and if they trade for Sebas, they're going to be more than happy with it. They do find that trade. Oscar's already kind of making his escape, though, so they're not going to jump onto him, but if you're Hokori, this is exactly what you want. Support for 2, Tier 1 tower taken, so now that's mid and bot that they've claimed, and the Southside jungle opens up in its entirety, really.
Yeah, and Vitali's he's starting to do Broodmother things where everything is going to become a problem. And again, it's been nice for Oscar to show up to a lot of these fights. When he's on Spider duty, we're not going to see him have that same level of impact. It's really unfortunate they lose their mid tower in that fashion, actually, because Oscar was having a great time just defending it, just sitting there, spamming it out with the hammer, and now his job is going to shift towards that bottom lane where he's going to be actively taking farm away from another core. In which case, Sebas can't really afford to miss any more with his rotations here, because there's just no more recovery space on the map. Even Sladen kind of gives up on going for an early Blink Dagger and buys Arcane Boots, because he knows maybe he can help his Storm Spirit out with his initiation a little bit by giving him some more just raw mana. That Blink Dagger is nowhere right now.
Yeah, not even the slightest bit of progress towards it after the boots get picked up, but they are looking for something. They're looking for Vitali here. They toss Katyu onto him, so they will get the root down, and that is a kill that they desperately needed. They honestly do it cleanly, and I like the reactions from Sladen. They drop the ward, they see him, Sladen knows, I can't hit him immediately, but Obviously, no matter which of his teammates he threw, someone was going to be able to get a root or a stun down.
Yeah, really good stuff. Really sick play. And there is a retort. There is the support smoked up right now, looking in an Orchid reveal. And with that, oh, do they get the Void?
Oh,
No.
the kisses are doing some work, though.
Oh.
It will come through eventually. And, well, I'm not really sure now. Analog gets taken down. Sladen will be traded out. The freezing field from Katyu, it's doing some damage. The Olacore is actually going to go down. Katyu somehow still didn't die for so much time. That gets enough for Oscar and Sebas to jump in for the kill. Oscar now might have trouble jumping out, because Vitaly is here. Oscar will look for the TP. Does he make it? No, he doesn't. Adaptive Strike stuns him out of his TP, and Lumiere cleans up the kill. So, in the end, 4 for 3. Yeah, 4 for 3 is the trade, so Hokori will get the win, but that fight was very weird, right? Like, the teams just kind of took turns being the aggressor there, and for a while it looked like Infamous may have had something, but the cost is just too high.
Yeah, and it was very messy, and if Kitaro somehow survives and gets a Chronosphere off, we're looking at a very different engagement, but just in a fantasy world, just barely too difficult. And now, well, they've got Orchid on Invoker, they've got Wraith Pact finished up on Vitaly. If they aren't extremely careful on Infamous now, you could really throw yourself into a fight that you just straight up cannot win. That's also the first time where Solar Guardian was not used and then immediately gotten a successful play. So you're going to start to feel like you're stressing out a little bit. We don't Solar Guardian for 35 seconds. We have to make a smoke with our Storm Spirit kind of before then, because Sebas doesn't have items either. Yeah, nice scan.
Heroes were kind of wrapping their way around here. Sebas is going to try to jump forward first, looking for the creeps. I don't think he realizes how many heroes are here, but Sladen, well, hero plays. Step up, tank the gank, allow Sebas to get away, but there is going to be a casualty elsewhere on the map as Katyu. Well, he gets spotted in the river. Analog gets in there for the Sunstrike. It doesn't find the kill, but it does get him a free assist. But here's the important bit. 2 support kills, maybe not the most valuable in terms of the gold, but it frees up Pit. And they do get through this quickly with the armor reduction and like a dozen spiderlings, so they're going to take Roche.
Yeah, and now this is exactly what you want. Morphling versus Faceless Void is already not a good matchup for the Void, but playing versus an Aegis as well, well, Lumiere doesn't need to worry about a damn thing for the next 10 minutes. He's just going to be able to farm up towards that first defensive item, and then Lumiere is completely out of the danger zone. And at the same time, he doesn't really even feel like he's in very much danger with how much Sebas is slowed down on the Storm Spirit. Bottom of the core is looking for a Witchblade, but probably wants an Orchid, can't go for either. They kill Slade in mid too. The core are just everywhere. They're closing off the map right now. They're playing much better with this Broodmother than they did in their last series.
It's remarkable to me right now that the team with Storm and Dawnbreaker in the lineup is getting outplayed in terms of mobility across the map. Hokori are playing wider than their opponents are, despite having a lineup that you would think would maybe kind of struggle, right? Or not struggle, but struggle in terms of their ability to actually do plays like this. As Gardic just walks right up to Sebas. He's going to hold the hook for as long as he can, throws it out now. Tornado's coming in. The timing's just a tiny bit off, but oh, no. Hold on. Of all the places, yeah.
Oh no. And I mean, it is 4 heroes rotating for a Storm Spirit, and you see across the map, you know, the Infamous, they fill the space in an effort to look for some of these items. And still, Oscar is the one having the best game. He's got a full deso. He's really never fallen off. He's still trying to feel effective, but I don't know, until he gets something as big as a BKB, I don't know if he's going to be able to just carry this solo at this rate. And Hokori, they're coming for your tier 2s, and you don't really have the ability to hit towers or really put on that much pressure, because Hokori will just kill you. So instead, they're losing out on pretty much every trade they can imagine right now.
It just feels like one of those games where, you know, this one at least isn't going to go your way for the Storm, right? Because, okay, he gets hit by the hook shot, he lives. He zips out just before the tornado hits. He zips through the cookie stun that would have stopped his TP. Everything looks great, and then you end up 6 inches in front of a Morphling who just stuns you anyway. So, all the breaks were going your way until the very end, and it's just kind of going to be one of those games for Sebas. Maybe the Witchblade changes that, but or at this point, I don't really know if it's even the Witchblade anymore, because he's saving up 2k gold, but his teammate, Not going to be able to save up much of anything. And now Oscar's in. The delay on the Solar Guardian may cost him a little bit, but I don't know. Katyu's coming in with a freezing field. Never mind. Canceled by the tornado. But they're still looking for Analog. The problem is he's not dying, and Sebas is, well, he's disarmed, but he can still zip. He's going to be able to find that kill. Now does he get away? No, he doesn't. Spawn Spiderling's nuke will finish the job. And this is the part where Infamous may just have to try and run for their lives with whoever they have left. Katyu, no. Worth a shot, but he won't make it out. And now that flare, I think it flew over Sladen, and it gets direct vision on Oscar, so they're going to make their way forward. Who's got TPs? Oscar doesn't. Sladen does. So Sladen is just going to, okay, effectively sacrifice himself here, but I'm not really sure if that was the right order of operations, because Oscar got away, but he still can't TP himself out, and okay. Never mind then. Everything I was just saying is completely irrelevant because they lose sight of the Tiny long enough for him to just TP away.
Yeah, but they realize that Oscar is still up here, even though Oscar's, yeah, taking the prisoners. He's going to just kill Garlic in his own cogs, but seeing him without a TP, it might be a slightly longer kill, but Lumiere should have this, and yeah.
There we go. Just a goofy-looking play there, but in the end, they do manage to clean up one last kill, and it's the core kill too. In that instance, you are perfectly okay with letting the Tiny TP away to safety, so Hokori continue to build the lead. 8k up, all their cores still looking good. Outside of maybe Analog, who's kind of not as far up as he would like to be compared to the Dawn, but I don't know, you look at his inventory, he doesn't care. He's got Orchid, he's working towards BKB. Realistically speaking, he doesn't need much more than that to still be effective.
No, and they go for another smoke on Infamous, one that ends up petering out, but trying to connect with their Faceless Void, and maybe the game changer is going to be once Katara has that BKB. I think the reactions coming in from Analog have just been a little bit too good with this Orchid. Just has blown up in the Faceless Void's face 2 or 3 times by now, but doesn't feel nice. And they are coming, to their credit, into a pretty nice timing here. They're getting that Orchid on the Storm Spirit. They're getting the BKB on the Void. Oscar is pretty much done for now. You'd still love Sladen to have that Blink Dagger on Tiny, but he's still struggling a little bit as well. And Aegis is reclaimed, so with those item timings, there's really no better moment for Infamous to look for their kind of foot back into this game. But we do need those items, and they're still struggling on the lanes just a little bit. And now you just hope that Katara's not going to get top right now, but there are 5 heroes kind of slowly moving up there, and there's no TP on this Faceless Void. But Katara might just need to kind of sit on his hands here and bide his time while his BKB comes out.
Yeah, he was at least able to finish that. The courier is on its way, so well, maybe that will be the game changer as you said, but 22 minutes in, and that's looking like their first opportunity to really shift momentum. It's not a great sign, as Katyu is, well, he's gonna try, I guess is the way to phrase that. Freezing Field comes out, didn't really do too much before it was canceled by Lumiere, and they're able to find themselves a bit of a free pickoff, but as of right now, Hokori, they can't really go much further forward for this point in the game, right? They don't have Aegis anymore, and the only objectives left to take are high ground pushes, which are still going to be incredibly dangerous against the Infamous lineup. They still have the means to hold their high ground pretty nicely, so they need to find a pick, and guess who is still top? He's got his TP up now, but he's got to basically TP right this second, but they're looking for him. They've got the flare down, the jetpack's coming in, Gardic is looking for his moment, Analog honestly could just start the fight himself, but he's waiting for reinforcements. The dilation comes out, Katara knows, I'm slowed by the Ghost Walk, somebody's here, but he is still going to get jumped in on. Does die, however, the rest of the lineup, rather than supporting him, actually ran into Lumiere first, and they did kill him, so at this point, that trade's pretty solid. This trade is kind of bad, though. Sebas does get taken down, he jumps the gun trying to go for Analog alone, and I suppose that does stop any sort of high ground threat, ET, but the heroes that you wanted to have gold the most are the ones who kind of die and don't get as much as they wanted.
Yeah, and very oddly enough, you know, both teams lose their mid and their carry, you know? Sure. I guess that's the way this goes down, but yeah, no, losing Lumiere just on the walk over, it was another great smoke from Infamous where they're almost baiting Katara a little bit, but even Kataro himself thought he was baiting them there. Didn't expect to get cooked from the trees, though. The core is just too good with it. and then not dropping the chain stun at all is just perfect execution. And that's why that, again, goes so easily for them, because Katara just, man's not allowed to chrono. Man's not allowed to use anything. I feel kind of bad for him, but at least he's got something to play for in this game. Sadly, there is a Morphling, though, with an Ag Shard and looking for a Scotty, which is going to make him really sad. Sladen,
Nope.
oh, they found him.
They get the vision. Lumiere's going to morph into the tiny... okay. He uses the toss. I was going to say he morphed into him, but then didn't use anything, but the toss does come through. They're going to be able to find that kill pretty easily, and... well, if you're Infamous, obviously giving up these kills are not ideal, but if Cat-Yu is sacrificing himself, if Sladen is sacrificing himself, then at least the cores are still getting a little bit of extra time to farm. Kataro working his way towards the Mjolnir. You've got, I assume, the BKB purchase for Oscar after he got his Blink Dagger, so... I don't know. They're working on some sort of incremental increases in their power here, ET. It's just a matter of how quickly can they actually do it.
Yeah, and, well, they finally scout out that Roche, very early Roche timer again. One that most likely favors Hokori, just because Infamous actually need to switch that gear up still, where they probably want to go for another smoke right now, and they should, just because there is that earliest possible time, and they scan it out even as well, but this is sadly just not going to be a fight that they can get themselves into quick enough, though they've got everything. They've got all their BKBs, they have all their ultimates, but there just isn't enough time for them to walk towards that pit. So another free Aegis for Lumiere, and this is Hokori's best moment to kind of win this game right now. This is their easy victory. They breach into the high ground, they just abuse the Scotty, they abuse Lumiere's life as much as they can. If you use your abilities defensively, you use the Chrono Sword Guardian, you don't get anything for it, that's where Infamous will run out of gas in their tank.
Lumiere? Okay. He's going to TP out. He was pretty close to Sebas, but Sebas doesn't see him, but they know their target. They want Kataro. The problem is they're the ones getting jumped in on first. Gardic is going to get blown up right away, and now Lumiere, he doesn't have much backup, but here come the TPs. Here comes the buyback. Gardic is back in. Kataro's going to be forced to BKB, looking to TP himself home, and he will make it out. Ooh, just barely. The hookshot was seconds behind him, but they do manage to get out. While they were doing that, though, Analog, I believe he just, well, didn't solo kill Sebas. Theolacor was there to help him, and Theolacor has to stay behind to make sure his teammate gets out, but if you're Infamous, I'm not 100% sure that you really care about the cost of that play, right? You lose your Storm, that sucks, sure, but the high ground push is now not a possibility. Hokori are too split up, they're on the wrong side of the map now, and maybe they can push out this bottom wave, but by the time they reach that high ground, Infamous will be able to regroup.
So they buy themselves another minute. A minute, of course, that is mainly spent for Katara's BKB to cool back down, but that was also another smoke they spent. Another revenge smoke where they were looking for Analog, just farming on the top side of the map, just hoping that he'd be greedy and then not immediately run back to his Morphling, but that's exactly what he did. And now, well, you don't have a smoke to get Kataro in. So your Faceless Void still has to jump at nighttime, and, well, there goes Cat-Yu. Can't do much about that, but the glyph's also used, and with no BKB for 10 seconds, nobody's coming back. This is most likely just going to be the bottom racks, at least in a position where I don't know if you want to fight for it, because how much damage do you actually have? There's 20 seconds on Sword Guardian. I don't think they're going to try this at all.
But they're trying to fake like they're going, and Sladen is actually going to jump. Avalanche, toss is going to be there. They're looking for some lockdown. They force out Analog's BKB. The problem is Sladen does end up going down, and now well, they're going to lose Cat-Yu again. That's a dieback from your Crystal Maiden, and Lumiere is actually going to go in onto Kataro, trying to win the Bash War. Will he actually do so? It looks like he will. No. Sladen comes in. There's the Avatos helping out his teammates. Do they have enough damage, though? No, they don't. Lumiere, even with the Aegis, wasn't willing to go down there if he didn't have to, and well, honestly, fair enough, right? If he dies there, sure, he comes back, but his team was so out of position, I don't think they would have gained anything from using the Aegis in that position. As Sladen, that's not the spider you were looking for. Unfortunate, as he does go down. Lumiere, though, jumps back in. He's going to get pulled in by the Vortex. Kataro, will he pull the trigger? Chronosphere is available, but he doesn't want to use it on the first life. The problem is, you have to actually get through the first life to make that valid in terms of your strategy, and Lumiere just doesn't seem to care. He continues to just push his way forward. They've taken one lane of racks already, ET. The second one's looking like it's going down here, and Well, if they're not going to use Chrono, I really don't think there's much of a fight to be had. They're going to try to jump in with Oscar, but that immediately falls apart. Kotaro still will not Chrono, but he's lost his teammate. Oscar goes down, the mid-rack's taken in its entirety, and listen, if you're not going to go for it, says Lumiere, I'm going for Megas. Still have Aegis for 80 seconds. You're running out of time if you're Infamous. Sebas is chasing off to the side. He's blowing a lot of mana here. Even if they do get the kill, though, the racks are going down.
Yeah, and that's Megas, and honestly, probably the game. There's just no opening. The split was too quick. It was too fast. They lost both their supports so quickly, and honestly, those diebacks is, I think, kind of what ended up that mistake in itself cost them their entire base. And now your Megas, you aren't really equipped to deal with it. I feel like this is kind of just time for them to maybe talk about what went wrong or discuss, what to do next, because I don't know what else there is to play for here. We're still waiting for our Chronosphere from Kotaro. He's going to have to mail this next one in, but aside from that, Aegis is going to be reclaimed in 30 seconds, but Lumiere's got Ags as well, so what damage are you really going to be able to put into it? I think the lineup was just way too hard to execute from Infamous this time around. And well, Kotaro, let's see it.
Gonna do the jump. Lumiere looking for him. Oh my god.
Yep.
I did not think he was gonna take that quickly. Wow.
Yeah, the other benefit, and yep, there you go. There's
Good
the GG.
game.
Yeah, he dies. The other very good benefit of becoming a faceless void with Agnum Scepter on Morg, because you can do that. Pretty gross, pretty darn gross. In kind of a repeat fashion here. That's how Hokori's game 1 of their last series against Infamous went, where they just kind of owned them and won in 30 minutes, but now it's time for Infamous to turn things around here, but a very important win for Hokori.
Now they get the first one on the board. They snap that losing streak, at least in Pro Series, because, as we mentioned, they had lost 4 games in a row. So obviously that streak comes to an end, and I mean, they looked pretty good here, honestly. They got all the heroes that they wanted. They got the comfort picks, and Infamous's lineup just looked a little out of sorts. Individual picks didn't look too bad on a case-by-case basis, but when you threw it all into a lineup, we just didn't really see them work well together.
Yeah, and go to a break. We gotta get out of here. There's a patch. There's something new happened in Dota 7.32D. We will get back to you guys after the break because we've got changes to read.
Yeah, we got to go read some patch notes. So we're cutting it all short. We'll be back with the Game 2 draft in just a little bit. Hopefully we'll know what we're actually talking about after we look over the patch. So we will see you in a few minutes.